disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. You got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. It's a good friend, Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. I thank you for being on this show. Glad to have you on board. We are broadcasting to you live from the True North, and let me tell you something, we've got a very interesting episode coming up because we have a series of interesting fights on Saturday. But before we get into that, before we open up the phone lines, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. If you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you're certainly welcome to do so with the Super Chat feature. Although it's always better if you join the membership program. That way you get more bang for your buck. Don't forget that there's also the Patreon page that you can join. About, $2 a month? And you help us support us by funding the independent documentaries that we are going to be making. We're working on Boxing's Most Shocking Volumes of All Time. Boxing's Most Shocking Moments of All Time, Volume 2. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the first one, and hopefully you help us spread the first one as well so that more people see it. And so if you want to donate that way, whether with your time or with propagating the channel, it's all good, fellas. It's all good. Also, don't forget that you can like and subscribe. That really helps us out, spread the BDA gospel. And you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and Spreaker at your leisure. And don't forget that if you're on Spotify, hit that 5-star rating, please. Really helps us out. All right, fellas? All right, now that we got the business out of the way, let's get give a big shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Dark Hey Dog, Night Murph. Those are two of the initiated. Real Talk Boxing, Protectorate General, Marty McFly, Ralph Unreal, Mark T, Super Sardonic, The Pigeon. Hopefully that's the real Pigeon. Glad to see him still around. And he's picking Frank Martin for the upset, by the way. We're going to talk about that. I think that's a good selection. Or a plausible one, rather. Shout out to Mark T, Mars, Night Murph, another one. And actually, I gave him a shout. Well, we'll give him a shout out since he's one of the initiates. Second shout out for Night Murph, Protectorate General, Lucky Zim, El Gordo, Quentin Lassiter, Roland Curtis, Baron Evola, Knockout Ned, Bray, the Quags in the house. Shout out to the Quags, another one of the initiated. Darth Vader, who says bonsoir tout le monde. All right, speaking a little French there. Shout out to Ralph Unreal, Warp Speed. Shout out to Warp Speed. Yes, indeed, fellas, I forgot to say, after this show, we're going to end it at about 10:15 p.m. and then we're going to continue on the night with a deep dive watch-along over at the Second Renaissance. That's right, it's been almost a month, or I think it has been a month, since we've touched that channel. I think it's time we get back to basics. Boxing's all well and good, but I really like to work on other muscles and not just stick to the boxing. So we're going to go to an easy-to-do show, which is a deep dive watch-along episode where we just watch a bunch of cool videos, and you're welcome to join us there to watch along. There it is. That's our Rumble channel. Rumble, where you can pretty much say and do as you please, contrary to other platforms, YouTube. But so you can check us out over there at about 10:15, all right? Who else was I giving a big shout-out to? Warp Speed, Super Sardonic, second guest always, the Boxing Kangaroo all the way from Australia. He's speaking Liam Paro. Ooh, he's speaking Pájaro. by unanimous decision. Rapax Rocking Company, shout out to Rapax, stand 4. Shout out to the Pigeon again, Illest Hand Flow Boxing Review. And many more people to come, I'm sure, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right. Let's get started here. Let me invite a couple of people. Start talking about some of the things that are going to be taking place this Saturday. I got to tell you, I am looking forward to some of these fights, despite the fact that there's a couple of, for lack of a better word, flaws on the PBC card. Nevertheless, it's a card that I am intrigued by. Tank Davis is a puncher. Whether you think he has a lot of flaws, whether you think he's overrated by a lot of people, the fact is that he's a bona fide puncher. You cannot take that away from him. So it's always interesting to watch a power puncher. But now the question is, are you willing to pay to watch said puncher? We're going to talk about that, but we're going to be taking the predictions too and opening up the phone lines so that we can get your predictions. All right, fellas? I see we got Jimmy jumping in here. Jimmy! All right, I think he's setting up his microphone.
What's up, brother?
What's up, Jimmy? How you been?
Good. I'm just setting up my phone with headphones and stuff.
All right. Take your time. I'm going to set up the fight for people. Just, the basics for people that want a couple of, some details, basic details, basic look over for this fight. I'm going to give you the dossier on both Gervonta Davis and Frank versus Tank. Or Tank versus Frank. This is a fight that's on the PBC pay-per-view platform. I believe you can get it on payperview.com as well, because there's it's available on Amazon, but only in the United States, like with the Team Zoo card. So that's, if you want to purchase it, you can go there. Both guys are 29 years old. They're both legit lightweights. They're both quick. They hit hard. Tank Davis is 29-0, 27 knockouts. Frank Martin 18-0 with 12 knockouts. Again, I want to emphasize that Frank Martin does have better power than some people give him credit for. Now, the problem is that we haven't really seen much of him since he's got less than 20 fights. So there's not that much of a sample size to work with. But what we've got, let me tell you, is good enough. Good enough indeed. So that's what we're going to be getting here. And despite the fact that they're both 29 years old, like I said, there is somewhat of a discrepancy in terms of experience. But don't be fooled, fellas. And this is something that I want to get into later on. Don't be fooled. Gervonta Davis's opponents are not really that much superior to Frank Martin's. The only real big mark or apparent difference between both guys is that Gervonta Davis has more fights. But the level of opposition is almost the same. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but what about Gervonta Davis? He's fought more former world titleists. Fellas, there's 4 world titles available now, plus 2 subsets for the WBC and the WBA. So in total, we got 6 people claiming to be titleists walking around per division. So please don't come at me. I don't take that the word titleist or former titleist too seriously. All right. So we got Jimmy here. Jimmy, Frank Martin, Gervonta Davis. Now, I already know, like we've talked about this before, the fact that this fight is on pay-per-view, it's a tough sell, considering Frank Martin's a relative unknown. But having watched a lot of these Frank Martin fights in the last couple of weeks, preparing for this fight, Frank Martin has speed. He's got power, although maybe a notch below Davis's. He's got legitimate power. And Davis, in my mind, is overrated by a lot of people. A lot of people make it seem like he's a top 5 pound for pound. What do you think we can expect this Saturday?
Pretty much the same as what we get from him all the time. He'll lose all the early rounds and then probably knock him out in the 6th or 7th, catch him with a big shot because he saves up all his energy. I mean, the Russian Frank into something that he's not ready for emotionally. I mean, he's just not there yet. I'm telling you, he hasn't fought in the big fights. He's going to be overwhelmed. His last outing, he looked human, to say the least. And again, I can't get past the fact that, a year and a half ago, the PBC was still referring to him as a prospect. But yet, then we're supposed to turn around and be like, oh, okay, let me give you $90 to watch his fight. It's just, to me, Tank Davis represents everything wrong with the sport of boxing. He runs his mouth, he glory snatches, he ties his name into other fighters. He has no intentions on fighting. And it is what it is with him. I just know that I'll be Team Stream come back and Saturday.
Oh, wait a minute. All right, so Jimmy.
But Jimmy, I just, you know what I mean? I just, I don't I really just don't like that dude. I don't like what he stands for, how he handles himself in and out of the ring. I think he's a punk. And yeah, he wanted nothing to do with Lomachenko for years. Wanted nothing to do with anybody. And then, but this is it after this, though, right? I mean, where does he go from here? What is he going to do? What are they going to probably match him up with Isaac Cruz? I would assume.
Yeah, something like that.
After
Right out
this.
of the gate with Jimmy, not missing words. I mean, he's telling you what he doesn't. He's not looking forward to this one, it seems. But let me tell you something, Jimmy. Though I agree, first of all, with what you said. I want to touch on that about Frank Martin's mentality. But you know me, I'm the ultimate optimist, trying to look at the glass half full here. And what I look at from Frank Martin, like I said, is he's got. I think people are skipping over his power. Usually, people try to be boxing hipsters, and they want to talk about the technique. They want to talk about the fundamentals, and they want to talk about whether he's got that dog, who's got the most dog. Woof, woof. But I mean, listen, power is like money; it makes things easier. And Frank Martin, he fought a guy by the name of Francisco Duno, I believe. Well, I don't know if that was his first name, but I know Duno was the last name. And I think that was the guy that Ryan Garcia knocked out in one round. Now, Frank Martin took his time. He's not as explosive as Ryan Garcia, but he did catch the guy with a left hand and then proceeded to stomp him in that same round. So the guy can crack. Thereabouts, he's got above average power. Then he took on Rivera, undefeated guy, who was juiced, by the way, and that didn't prevent him from stopping the guy. I mean, Devin Haney, when he fought a C-level guy who was on a cheap, Austrian, he got whooped. You got to give Frank Martin credit finding an undefeated strong puncher, and he was able to take him out. I mean, decision him, and he stopped, and he dropped him too. So what I'm saying is, I want to illustrate the fact that the guy can crack. He stopped Jackson Marinas, whom Rolly Romero, for all the talk about how he's heavy-handed, he couldn't do anything with Marinas. He needed that judge's help to get through that one. Whereas Martin ended up stopping Jackson Marinas. And even in the Hartoriovian fight, when I thought that, that fight was very close, I thought they could have gone either way, but he still managed to drop the Armenian and was able to hurt him too in the 6th round. So this guy can crack. Let's not get it twisted. The guy can crack. And so it's going to be interesting to see Tank Davis. And the reason why I bring all of this up is because, yes, I do think he's sort of fragile mentally. Like you said, I do see that. And it really came out in the Hartoriovian fight, or whatever the guy's name is. Hartinunian, sorry. But here's the news too. I don't think it takes all that much to beat Tank Davis. I mean, think about it, Jimmy. Rolly Romero, that was another prospect, right? Well, we've called him that before. When he fought Tank Davis, he was certainly a prospect, and he's nowhere near as well schooled as Frank Martin. He was taking rounds. It was basically even that fight before the knockout. So don't you think Frank Martin, if he is indeed, maybe he is strong mentally or whatever, don't you think he's got some very good chances of pulling off the upset here?
Well, listen, anybody who comes into shape who has decent skill can beat him because his camps are mostly fat camps. And listen, if he goes into the problem with this, if he goes into with an attitude, I'm going to use my power to beat Davis, he will lose the fight.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm not saying he doesn't. I think I agree with you what you said about, he's got decent power, but does he have the power to stop Davis, who's got a thick neck and has been shown he's, can take a decent shot? I don't think we've ever even seen the kid hurt. We've seen him a little baffled. You know what I mean? Like going backwards. You need someone boxing skills. Just someone who's going to move. Because if you make him move, it's going to come out of this. Davis lulls you into, false sense of security by just inactivity in the ring, and then you just you keep pushing the action, and eventually you walk right into something. That's how we beat Garcia. That's how we beat Rolly. He always catches people coming in, and so I wouldn't charge. He needs to do all his work horizontally. Don't charge forward. When you're in punching range, he needs to circle and snap the punches. Because if you get him moving his feet, we saw it with Isaac Cruz. He's just, you know what I mean? That was his, toughest fight, I think. I mean, some people even think he lost the fight. I can't remember actually what I thought back then. But the important part is don't go in and try to slug it out with him. He needs to snap it and make him move, make him uncomfortable by just jabbing, throwing combinations, getting out of there, and get him frustrated. Because remember, if you get him frustrated, that's when he's going to get. Because say come the 5th or 6th rounds, he's down on all the scorecards. Even though again he's the house fighter, so It's going to have to be really down. But that's when they're going to start getting desperate. And that's when he's going to lunge and make mistakes that Martin can counter. That would be the best, because he doesn't have that kind of one-punch power that Davis does. I don't think you'd, in a million years, be able to stop him with a one shot. It would be an accumulation of shots to stop Davis. I would just frustrate him with his movement and his skills. Speed and timing is what's going to, if you don't have knockout power, the speed and timing will beat Davis. And don't get me wrong, I hope that God he beats him. It would make my weekend if he beat him, because I don't think he deserves the accolades he gets.
Let me go. We gotta let him move in pieces.
Yeah, Jimmy, that's really the you hit the nail on the head there. That is Tank Davis's modus operandi in the last 3 or 4 years. Move around, lull these guys to sleep, and then catch them with something. That's really the mythos around Tank Davis, is that he's only fighting at 50%. He makes people think that because he's been so inactive in the ring. I'm talking about punch output. So he makes his fans believe that this guy's only operating at about 50% of his powers, and that if he really wanted to, he could turn it up and really just run people over and start fighting like Roberto Duran. The facts are that he doesn't do that. As far as back as when he fought Yuriorkis Gamboa, an old Yuriorkis Gamboa, his punch output was about 300 punches per fight. So 300 punches per round. Now, across 12 rounds. So now some people have said, yeah, but Canelo does the same thing. He's like Canelo, he takes his time and then he ends up taking his opponent out. Here's the difference, though. Canelo's doing that at a higher weight class against much better opposition. Tank Davis is fighting subpar or handicapped opposition. And he's not throwing that many shots. Now, when he fought Isaac Cruz, he didn't throw. I think that was his big fight punch output. That was the fight in which he's thrown the most shots. I think that was something about 400 something. When he fought Barrios, very lackluster, he wasn't really doing that much, to the point where when he was coming into the 11th round, Floyd Mayweather Jr., his on-and-off mentor, had to go into the ring, worked his way up to the ring, and said, I think you're losing this fight. You need to go for the knockout. That's against a Mario Barrios who was dehydrated. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Now, I'm starting to appreciate now Tank Davis telling guys that they can't gain more than 10 pounds on fight night. But what we're talking about here is analyzing fights and analyzing a fighter's worth. And what we know about Tank Davis is that when he fought Mario Barrios, it wasn't the same Mario Barrios that won a razor-thin decision, some people think robbery, against Akhmedov. I mean, you can only wonder. Akhmedov, yeah, he hit the deck twice, but he was putting it on Barrios for most of those rounds. And you can only wonder, if Barrios had been dehydrated, would Akhmedov have taken that fight? Whereas the Tank Davis that knocked out the Barrios that went in there with Tank Davis wasn't in his optimum shape. So again, I'm not saying I disagree necessarily with the rehydration thing nowadays. I'm starting to get on board with that. But the point is, that wasn't the real Barrios. So it's hard to gauge how good Tank Davis really is, and how much he can actually, how many punches he can actually throw in a fight when he needs to, if he's behind. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on, Jimmy, that you mentioned is the belief. I think that's one of the most important things here. Frank Martin has to believe. I know it's easy to say, and I don't know how he's going to have to do it, but the way some of these guys talk about Tank Davis, I'm telling you, they're drinking the Flavor Aid. Because again, remember, in Jonestown, it wasn't Kool-Aid, it was Flavor Aid. They're drinking the Flavor Aid. A lot of people are under the impression now that Tank Davis has these top five pound-for-pound skills. And I was on Twitter. That's where most of the Tank Davis fans congregate. And there was a clip of Frank Martin in this preview show, from the Amazon show, preview show. He was saying that he's got a plan. He's got it all worked out. He's got a game plan to really beat Davis. And his fans go, I mean, that's all well and good, but Tank Davis has a counter plan for all those plans. And then one guy goes, he can adjust on the fly. That's what he's best at. And I'm thinking, when did he actually do that? When it came to Barrios, he simply went for the knockout, which I think was there all night against a dehydrated Barrios. When he fought Isaac Cruz, he kept doing the same thing. He just kept trying to run Isaac Cruz into something, and it never really worked out. So, I mean, again, this whole thing of him adjusting on the fly, I'm sorry, Jimmy, have you ever seen it? Maybe I'm wrong.
No. They just repeat things they heard somebody say, either on Twitter or they just repeat stupid talking points. I mean, his fan base is insane. That's why I haven't been on Twitter now in a long time, just because of that. They just get, and it's the same repetitive garbage. They don't say nothing, and they, you know what I mean? Even though every metric used to gauge a fighter's worth. He's the face of boxing. Shut the fuck up, he is. I mean, now that we haven't been on him for a while, man, the talk is that Garcia did over 500,000 in that Haney fight, which shocked me, to be honest with you. I'll admit it. I was surprised. That blindsided me. I didn't expect to do those kind of numbers. So it goes to show you that kid really does have a fan base. So when this Martin fight doesn't come anywhere near 500,000 sales, what are they going to say? They're still going to be barking that he's the face of boxing? No. Then they'll just say something else. You know what I mean? It was just funny that you were talking about his fan, because a little side note, somebody sent me a video today of one of his biggest fans, a YouTuber, literally was on a live call with David Haney's father, absolutely losing it, calling him a pussy. Your son's a pussy, glass jaw, like threatening to fight him and shit. It was crazy how insane this kid got when he was saying that Tank never fought anybody, David Haney's father. So, yeah, these people just get crazy, but the thing is this: he's 30 years old. He hasn't fought anybody of note. Anybody. Nobody knew who Isaac Cruz was. Nobody. He was an absolute unknown. Fought on Showbox once. And that's like probably his toughest fight besides Garcia. Like, we know he weight trained him, made a stipulation, and then, well, he didn't make him, but he signed for it. And he realizes now he shouldn't have done that. But if he wouldn't have had that hydration clause on him, I don't think that fight would have gone the same way. Of course, his body folded. Man, just like body shots hurt that much more when you're emaciated. But so yeah, if he can keep his shit together, don't admire your work. Because what ends up happening, usually you start throwing combinations. If you start landing, you throw one too many, or you hang around to admire your work. He needs to get in and get out with his combos. But after the 7th round, when his power is definitely going to be dipped, he's not going to keep his powers nowhere near the same as in the early rounds. That's if he wants to try to lay it on him, take him out with pressure. That would be to do it. Martin's as skilled, I guess, as anybody else he's fought. So, I mean, that's pretty sad that this is probably his best opponent 9 years into his, career, or 8 years since he was first televised. So, yeah, we'll see. I hope he loses, because to me, he's everything wrong with the sport. Although I got to say, I'm kind of in a little bit of mood now, because Adrian Broner just put out in his Instagram that God spoke to him and he's not going to retire because he's been going about it the wrong way.
There you go. I mean, that's all he needed to do. It was easy as that.
Yeah.
He's only 34, by the way. If you think about it, I thought he was older. But he started
like 44.
He got on TV very early on when he was in his early 20s, early 20s. So now I'm unsurprised now when I remember that. And that's why he's only 34. But he's an old 34, it seems. Anyone else want to go? I see we got Sobers and Gonzalo here. Anyone want to talk about or give their thoughts on the Tank Davis versus Frank Martin fight? All right. Well, I'll say this, man. As it pertains to Tank Davis's opposition, this is a guy who's fought, like I said, he's fought limited opposition or handicapped opposition, and he still manages to struggle in those fights. So I don't really know how good he is. Now, Boxing Chief said something very interesting a while back. In terms of describing elite fighters, he said the mark of an elite fighter is a guy who has a bunch of things that he can do well, good defense, good offense, good footwork, power, speed, whatever. All those intangibles he can put them together and make them work at the same time. Tank Davis has good defense when he wants to. Like Jimmy was saying, he can lull people to sleep nowadays and then run them into one shot. But he's not the type of guy that can stand still and make you, like James Toney or even Canelo Alvarez. Stand still and make you miss. He has to move around the ring, and that limits his offense. So you see that there's a disconnect here, because he can't. If he's doing one thing, he's unable to do much of the other, and vice versa. So that's a major flaw right there. That's going to cost him. I'm telling you right off the bat now, it's going to cost him against elite opposition. And the reason why I say that is because it's been costing him against subpar opposition. And his career reminds me a lot of Deontay Wilder and Adonis Stevenson, another forgotten puncher. Adonis Stevenson was a southpaw, big puncher, and he'd been fighting, like I said, a mediocre opposition for a guy who was ordained and supposed to be the lineal light heavyweight champion. By the time he stepped up against Gvozdyk, he almost got killed. Now, yes, granted, he was 41 years old, but we've seen it before with Deontay Wilder as well. And Errol Spence. Once these guys step out of the PBC city cocoon, they end up rushing into the harsh jungle of boxing. And some of these guys have been hardened by fighting top opposition. And when they take on these PBC guys, these coddled PBC guys, whoops, all of a sudden it's lights out. So that's something that I'm expecting from Tank Davis very, very soon. Might even happen on Saturday. But again, that's dependent on Frank Martin. I don't know how. The big X here is how strong is he mentally. He has to believe. You know what I actually think he has to do? I think he has to go after Tank Davis. I think you said something similar earlier, Jimmy, that Tank Davis is a guy, like we said, he likes to start slow and then try to turn it up late. So what I think Martin should do is start early. Not too early and not too aggressive so that he runs into something, but really try to, get some body shots. I know, and it's very difficult to do it against Davis, like I said, because when he goes on the defensive, he's very good at it. And then if people get frustrated, they run into something. But I'm telling you, there's something to be... There's a space there in the early rounds to take advantage of and take away Tank Davis's second win. Because Jimmy...
Bank rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know. Jimmy, don't you think it's plausible that maybe Tank Davis falls up, behind like he did against Barrios and he probably runs into something big?
Of course, he's gonna. Yeah, if he starts like he normally starts, which is always slow, and he throws historically low punches for his body class in his weight class. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he needs to bank and make him like where there's no denying it. Where Ford is in the corner saying, "Okay, you're down." Because when a fighter is down, he makes mistakes. That's when he's going to be apt to make mistakes. But again, this all comes down to how much of a professional boxer is Martin. You know what I mean? That also, all those things, all those tangibles come with time. You know what I mean? That's why you build up a fighter to this position.
Hey, Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, I got a little bit of a background. But I just have to mention something that maybe people forget or they fail to realize. Frank Martin was the last guy to drop Virgil Ortiz in the amateurs before Virgil Ortiz turned pro. He dropped them with the brick. You know how Gervonta Davis keeps talking about the lead, the brick. Oh, that guy's dropping bricks. Gervonta Davis is expecting bricks from Frank Martin. And let me say something else. Was he not the only last guy to drop Virgil Ortiz in the pros? And time changes things where Virgil is bigger. But let me say this. Frank Martin, even though he started late, he's a blue chip guy. Doesn't he not remind you a little bit of I'm not comparing it to like a Larry Holmes, a guy that doesn't talk a lot, but he's all business.
Gonzalo, let me introduce you to something that I was talking about earlier. The fact that Frank Martin, he fought the same guy that Garcia blasted out in one round. Remember Duno, the Filipino guy? Frank Martin stopped him in the 7th round, but it's because once he caught him, he took him out. He also took out Jackson Marinas, the guy that should have gotten a win over Rolly Romero. And Rolly Romero never heard that dude. And he also, Frank Martin also dropped Rivera, the undefeated Rivera, the guy that looked like Julian Jackson. So wouldn't you say, Gonzalo, to your point that, indeed, he does have above average power? Maybe not as good as Davis is, but right in the same stratosphere, maybe.
Yeah, and he's blue chip and he's tough and he's not from the fucking suburbs like Gervonta Davis. I don't know why these guys keep let me validate myself. You're from the suburbs. No, whether you're from the suburbs or not, Frank Martin is a tough guy, and he's a blue chipper. That's what I'm saying. He's your fucking common guy that doesn't have the over-resoundingly, I'm lost for words, BDA, the overly charismatic personality. But I'm going to say this. He got heavy hands. He can punch. And if he started late, he's whether you want to call him a journeyman or not, he's learning on the job, and he's very, solid. He's a solid guy. You make a mistake, you're gonna pay. He's undefeated, and he's undefeated.
But that's the thing, though. But that's the thing, though, because Jimmy and I see something similar in Frank Martin. We see a little something that makes us doubt whether he actually has a hard mentality, the wherewithal, and the resolve to get. It seems, I don't know. Do you think the limelight's going to be a little bit too bright for him, or what do you expect on Saturday?
You know what I see, BDA, and I never Not because I don't want to be just because I don't want to be overly spoken when the time wasn't right. You
Uh
know
huh.
what I see?
What's
Because
that?
it was never gonna get any views or like what the fuck is. I see a tough guy and Frank Martin. I see a tough
Interesting.
motherfucker. That's what I see.
Interesting. Interesting. Now I want to ask you guys: did you see the? There was a clip apparently going around that where from that Amazon preview show where Tank Davis is sort of showing trepidation in regards to Frank Martin. Did you guys see that clip? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? Anybody? 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 No. And by the way, before we continue, don't forget to hit the like.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that, Mr. BDA. Sorry.
All
Yeah, I
right,
didn't
right.
see that.
Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. It really helps us out. And don't forget, we're going to be opening up the phone lines in about 9 o'clock p.m. maybe.
Hey, BDA, remember? Let me say something, BDA. Remember,
I'll
Isaac
let you say
Cruz took
something. Yeah.
fucking Pitbull to this. When Pitbull's giving a lot of respect to Frank Martin because they sparred. And he said, "Oh, he dropped bricks on me." No, this guy's gonna go. This fight's not. Frank Martin's not getting knocked out. When I say I see a tough guy, I see a fucking tough guy. This
Is that
fucking
right?
fight is going the distance, and they make no mistake. Frank Martin is like the African American version of a Pitbull Cruz. That dude is fucking tough.
Okay, but you're not talking about stylistically, obviously. You're talking about resolve. You're talking about toughness. Gonzalo? Well, I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's what he. That's what
he's talking about their skin tone, BDA.
Well, we got Sobers. Sobers, what about you, man? What do you expect on Saturday?
What's up? Can y'all hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, man. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say one thing I did want to just jump on that y'all were saying. I don't like when these boxers are saying stuff like "you from the suburbs, you ain't from the hood," whoop de whoop, and like uh Davis, this dude right here, yeah, you was from the hood, but you weren't in the streets, you were in the gym. You know what I'm saying? So what's he talking about?
Interesting.
Same thing with that kid Shakir Stevenson. Why you act like you was in the streets, bro? You was in the gym. That's the only way. That's the only reason why you're at where you are now.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Never Sobers isn't saying that he's not criticizing them for they should have been in the streets. What he's saying is that these guys want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to do the right thing, which is stay in the gym and which will allow them to get out of the mean streets. But at the same time, they want to claim that they are from the mean streets and make it seem like they were drug
I mean, you
running.
couldn't be in the streets if you was in the gym 24/7. You know what I mean? We're becoming the level of box you are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, this whole thing.
Like this, how I'm sorry, BDA, but I just want to say like how Davis was harping on what's his name, Frank Martin, like, oh, you started late. I was doing it since I was 7. So you were in the gym since you were 7, bro. You were not in the streets. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, you're breaking it down, man. That's true.
Yeah,
I hadn't.
Probably was more longer than you, bro. I'm sorry,
You know, that don't mean shit. That's all cap. That's all cap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't like that shit.
We all come into our own when we come into our own, and that doesn't make you less of a man. But I'm saying at the end of the day, you gotta hone your fucking skills. And I think that like I said, I'm gonna go back to the same point. Trey Martin is a tough guy and he's a blue chip and he's very fundamentally sound for a guy that started late. Never mind where he started late because when he fought in the amateurs, I know he's running 30. He was the last guy to drop Virgil Ortiz and the amateurs once again.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what though. That's in terms of that's the weakest point of everything. If we're propping up Frank Martin, but I mean, to your point, it does add to the overall gestalt of what we're talking about, which is that Frank Martin can crack, and he's got good hand speed, and yeah.
No, I was gonna say, but did you see that fight on Gonzalo by any chance? Because in the images, you got dropped you can look back and say got a standing 8 count, right?
Yeah.
In the images, like you're standing 8 counts with just one punch. Like somebody takes a big shot and just even if his leg just buckles for a second, a ref will jump in and give a standing 8 count. They do it all the time. You get standing 8 counts
Jimmy, if
when
your
you're
head
not hurt.
snaps back, they'll give you a standing 8 count.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, is that what happened, or was it a legitimate, like he was put on his feet?
The goals, he can punch with the straight lift. And the guy, look, the guy doesn't have like the notoriety or like the notoriety or like he's not banking on the fact that I'm a superstar. He's kind of blue chip, like under they call him the ghost. So what does he have to lose? He's kind of like already kind of silent guy. So he's already like right in under the. He's kind of under the weather. Like the bright lights are not going to affect him so much because he knows he doesn't have that shine. So he's kind of like the dark horse, right? You know what I mean? He's already like he's banking on his craft, and I'm saying he's not right in the superstardom because he knows that the other guy's a superstar. Okay, he's applying his craft. And in the fucking and that night, he's not gonna be the one to be. Let me fucking let me try to show you something else. No, he's gonna do what he always does. Blue chip guy. That's all I'm saying. Is like, how can you
Well,
describe a guy that always does what he does and puts the work in? You
well,
cannot. Is
let
that's
me.
the guy?
I mean, that's a good observation there. But just to answer Jimmy's question, yeah, he did. Frank Martin did put Virgil Ortiz on his ass in the amateurs. Now, if you have to look closely at whether he was tripping him a little bit too with the lead foot. But nevertheless, to answer your question, he did put him on his butt. It wasn't a standing 8 count. By the way, I got to read a super chat here. Shout out to Fight or Flight Boxing for his contribution with the super chat. He says, boxing pages claim that Davis has KO'd 6 to 8 world champions. Bless their ignorant, casual little hearts. Davis last fought a real world champion on January 14, 2017. Can you touch on this, BDA? Yes, I mentioned something like that earlier when the people like to say, well, Tank Davis fought this many. Well, Gonzalo, let me please give me the benefit. Give me the benefit of at least finishing what I'm about to say. Please. So,
Can I see something really fucking weird? I've always had a hard on for fucking Frank Martin. Or a long time ago, that dude is a fucking killer. In my opinion,
you've had a hard on.
That dude can beat a lot of guys. They don't get a fucking credit.
I mean, listen, you've got a hard on from Frank Martin. That's your business. But if you respect his skills, then yeah, that's germane to the show here. But I just wanted to say something real quick. No te alejes mucho, güey. But I wanted to say this. In regards to what Fight or Flight Boxing said, people like to say that they go, oh yeah, Tank Davis has beaten these many champions. He's fought guys like Leo Santa Cruz. On paper is the most decorated guy he fought, but that was a guy that started. I believe he won his first titles at 118. Wasn't he a bantamweight or a super bantamweight? Let's say he was not equipped to be fighting at 130. That was above his best weight. So the other thing that I was saying is that nowadays you got 4 titles. Plus, you get 2 subdivisions for the WBC and the WBA. So at one division or another, you can have 6 guys walking around claiming to be champions. So, yeah, the last guy that he fought that you can maybe make an argument for he was a legit champion was Pedraza back in 2017. That's 7 years ago. So people, that's what I was saying earlier. Frank Martin, you can look at Jackson Mariñez and Rivera and Hartunian and say, well, those guys weren't world champions. But to me, they're all contenders at the end of the day. Whether you have a title or not, you're a contender nowadays. So they're all contenders at the end of the day here. The only difference is Tank Davis has more contenders on his docket, and they're not even the top echelon, top 5 of any division. So yeah, man, I'm telling you, Tank Davis's resume is overrated. And some people can say, oh, BDA is hating. I mean, hating would mean that I'm being overly critical for just because I dislike the guy or hate the guy, as they like to say. I'm not. I'm pointing out the truth here. Tank Davis has not fought the best, either 130 or 135. He just hasn't. So we don't know how good he is because he's strong. Well, actually, I do know how good he is. He's been struggling against these guys. So he's not as good as his fans make him out to be. He's good, don't get me wrong. And he's got that ever dangerous mix of speed and power. But he's there to be beat. And do not be surprised if Frank Martin can do something like that. But the other thing that I wanted to touch on, because we got a lot of other fights to talk about as well, is the fact that Errol Spence said that Tank Davis in this fight will not be able to coast in the early rounds and then rally for the knockout. What do you guys think? Let's get down to it. Let's get down to brass tacks. Prediction time. Who wants to go first? Somebody's gonna go first.
Say again, can you repeat your statement and concisely?
Prediction time. Prediction time.
Or what? Sorry, BD. I got a little background noise.
Well, what do you think? What do you think, Gonzalo? What do you think? We're talking about Alice in Wonderland predictions for when that remake's coming out. I'm talking about Tank Davis or Frank Martin. Come on.
Oh, no, I got Frank Martin by Controversial decision.
Whoa.
I'm saying Tank Davis is gonna win, but the Frank Martin is gonna. He really deserves to get the victory. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
okay, okay,
Vinny.
okay. Now,
That's
now
my
you
kind
have
of
to
like if everybody else's heads.
hold on, hold on.
That's what I'm
Now
saying.
you have to forgive me
And I
because
want to mention that before you even said it. I'm saying Frank Martin wins by contra. He loses, but he deserves to win. You
Gonzalo.
know these fucking old judges like, in the PBC and the fucking the whole what do you call it like the whole machine the whole machine behind the fucking the PBC. That shit's getting old.
So you're saying Tank Davis? You're
Tank
saying
Davis
Tank
wins.
Davis?
Tank Davis wins. Tank Davis wins.
Excuse me. You're saying Tank Davis by controversial decision, essentially. That he doesn't deserve the win, but he's gonna get the decision.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Who else wants to go? Prediction time.
Although I want to be wrong more than anything. I want to see Frank Martin win, but I think it's going to be a questionable stoppage. I think he's going to get Frank Martin hurt in a normal fight that wouldn't be stopped. I think the ref will jump in. Who's reffing that? Also, I don't know. See, those things I like to know who's reffing. If it's a guy very compliant to the PPC.
He's too tough. He's too tough, man. I don't think he goes out like that.
Well,
He's a tough dude.
We'll see, Gonzalo. Maybe if you let Jimmy continue explaining it, maybe he'll convince you.
Well, yeah, I'm just cutting Jimmy off, but like I know, like I respect Jimmy so much, but I'm just saying, Jimmy.
No, I know, and that's why I'm saying I don't even think he would be hurt to the point. I'm seeing one of those where like he tests like a bad stoppage where the ref jumps in and like waves the fight off when Martin's still ready to throw back. You know what I'm saying? Like I because they listen. Tank Davis is the PBC's last and only hope. And even if Steven Espinosa's taking it over, regardless, he's the man there now. You know what I mean? He is the man. He's the only undefeated champion who does any kind of numbers. And I think, I know, because of Frank Martin is a quiet kid, doesn't seem to be an idiot in the streets and doing all kinds of knucklehead shit. You know what I mean? He just doesn't have that kind of support behind him. So, pragmatically speaking, to the promotion, which guy do they want to win? Of course they want Tank to win. And if it's, and we've seen PBC, it's just become almost commonplace with them in these ridiculous stoppages or wins. And because the reason why I say that with a stoppage, right, I think that Martin will be up on the scorecards too. And I think, you know what I mean, the ref will be like, oh, any chance I get to stop this fucking fight, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? To get Tank the victory. I've just lost that much respect for the way shit's being run now. What state is this happening in? Is it happening in Vegas or?
Let me check here. I got it on the screen here. Davis versus, it's going to be taking place on, Las Vegas, MGM Grand. I thought it was in New York, by the way.
So exactly, Las Vegas.
Initially, I thought it was in New York. Let me just double check.
Barclays.
Let me just double check here.
Well, that's where they were originally talking about having the fight take place, but I think they did move it to MGM.
Yeah, it's Vegas.
And we always seen, Vegas. They're compliant. You know what I mean? I think they're gonna probably rob the kid. I think they're gonna try to make a stoppage, get a stoppage because I can't see. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see the kid having the activity, and I think if Frank Martin goes in and banks enough early rounds, where Davis is going to have to get desperate and really put the pedal to the metal. But will he have it? Will he still have the oomph? I don't know. I'm so jaded by the PBC and the judging and the refereeing on their fights that it affects my predictions because you just don't. You know what I mean? And so that's the reason why I'm making such a weird prediction. Like I just personally see them stopping that fight on something that shouldn't have been stopped. That in any other time, in any other place, would not have been stopped. That's what I'm pitching right now. That might change before Saturday, but right now, that's what I'm going with.
No, it's not that far-fetched, Jimmy. I can see it happening. Like, if it happens, I won't be surprised. I mean, regardless of my pick, of what pick I give, that's one of the scenarios that I can see happening, man. Because you're right. They're down to the last bullets over the PBC. They don't have any stars. Spence hasn't fought in a while. Wilder's done. He wasn't even fighting on the PBC in his last two fights. So, Tank Davis is one of the last bargaining chips that they can use if they want to do something. And it's dependent on that So I can see that happening. By the way, Real Talk Boxing says Diddy is walking tank out. I mean, come on. Diddy's going to come back out of exile. He's going to risk it all for Tank Davis. You never know. You never know. I wonder if he's going to carry him into the ring, because that's what he did when he met him in person. Remember that? He wrapped him in his arms and then gave him a bear hug, lifted him off the ground. So we'll see if that happens. He's going to carry him into the ring like the bridesmaid gets carried over the whatever they call that. Anyway, shout out to Don Chile Relleno for his contribution with the super chat. Haven't seen him in a while. He says, disgusting, pathetic, laughable, and unbelievable that people actually think that coward gnome is the face of boxing. Well, I mean, listen, check out Twitter. That's the big debate. Because they say that he did 1 million pay-per-view buys against Ryan Garcia, which that's the number that the PBC journalists, the journalists under the PBC payroll put out. But neither Showtime nor the PBC ever confirmed those numbers. So we don't know what they are. But because of that mythical $1 million pay-per-view figure that they like to throw around, they like to say that he is now the face of boxing. We'll see how much the Martin fight does, and whether the people there will still be invested in saying that he is the face of boxing. We'll see.
Well, America or worldwide? Because Americans don't count worldwide. We're talking worldwide. We're gonna say Usyk and we're gonna say fucking Noya Inoue. Because Japan, how many inhabitants does Japan have? And Asia. Remember, the United States is only like how many percent of the world? Like 4%, or like not even 10% of the worldwide population. And remember, I live in Asia, BDA, so I live in Asia. So nothing.
I think it's
and remember, the sun shines on fucking Japan first. Por eso se le dice la casa del sol poniente, la sol poniente. With the house of the rising sun, Japan. That's where the sun shines first. And we have millions of people over here. There's a Mexican fucking cucking for these guys over here. Oh no, I'm just a resident over here because I stopped my visa. But this guy's a monster. Inoue is a fucking number one. There's Crawford number two. Usyk, arguably number 1, too. It's like, what have you done for me lately?
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. I reiterate what you said. Sobers, how about you, man? What's official prediction here?
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All right. I think that Davis is going to stop him late. I think maybe the 10th round. I think he's going to stop him going to the body. What's his name? Martin was looking kind of vulnerable in his last fight near the end. He kind of sucked it up and got the win at the end, but I don't think he'll be able to pull that off against Davis.
All right.
So yeah, I think Davis stops him at 10, bro. Body shots.
I wrote it down. Go ahead, Gonzalo.
Can I interject one last time? When I say like I'm fanboying for Frank Martin, he's never looked weak in his entire career. Even though he's never looked weak.
Shirtless black man.
Call it what you will. I don't know. I'm not that type of dude. I'm just saying.
By the way, let me just clarify, Sobers. Do you expect it to be a rough outing for Tank Davis? In other words, is it going to be one of those classic Tank Davis performances where he loses a lot of rounds?
I think he's going to be down on the cards. I don't think Davis is that good, but I just think that Martin's going to he's going to get tired, and Davis's power is going to get him through it. I can't remember how to say the guy's name. Hartsarunian. Yeah. I think he could have stopped. He was on his way. He could have got a stoppage possibly against Martin. You know what I mean?
Sobers. That's a good point. If he goes out of the shield, that's what we want. If he goes out of the shield like a man, you cannot blame anybody. The two parties involved. If any other guy goes out on the shield, that's boxing. You cannot blame either guy, but that's what we fucking hope for. Right or wrong? You need to go out like a fucking man.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I don't think Sobers was saying that he was blaming anybody. He was just telling you how he thinks the fight's gonna go.
Well, I mean, no, but in the grand scheme of things, right.
And
prediction wise, Yes, I mean that could be his thought, but if I'm on a layer like this. Okay, yeah, I got it. But in the grand scheme of things, if he go out on his shield, hey, that's boxing. That's what we fucking do. We cannot predict at the end of the day who wins or who doesn't. But as long as you try, that's what fucking merits the fucking the accolades. That's what. Anyways, if he loses, he loses. But if he wins, he wins. But I'm saying, Martin fucking he stays strong to the end, and I recognize what Sobers is saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Frank Martin has to go for it. That's for sure. By the way, shout out to
Well, I mean,
Fighter Flight Boxing for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "Feed me another C-level fighter that didn't look good in his last fight." Tank Davis. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I don't know. I mean, hold on, Gvozdyk, can you mute yourself,
Remember,
please?
us
There's a lot of
women,
background noise, man.
your mind is only a piece of the puzzle in the grand scheme of things. There's millions of people that have their opinions as well.
Mute yourself, please, man, because there's a lot of background noise there. It's people, I don't know, it sounds like you're in the mall or something.
Sorry.
All right, shout out to who else? Don Chile Leyen. Oh, shout out to Nicholas Argyros for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "Question for Jimmy: Is it worth taking BCAAs?" I don't know what that is, Jimmy. What is that? The BCAAs?
BCAAs?
Yeah.
What in hockey?
I don't know, man. I don't know the guy. I was hoping you would know the context. I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I apologize.
I'm afraid to Google it, by the way.
BC, I'm gonna check that out.
I'm afraid to Google it. I don't know what's gonna come up. It says BC branched chain amino acid. The fuck is that? It's a branch.
Oh yeah, no. Oh yeah, if you're working on branched chain amino acids. If somebody's working on it, those are great. Those are great. That's it just says natural supplement.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
it's a building block for building muscle and stuff. Yeah,
people are saying that in the chat as well. But shout out to all right. So okay. So
hey, BDA. Hey, how did my prediction fucking fall? Like after Jelly Shane got knocked out in the 5th round, pretty good, no? Not the 4th, but the 5th. No, it was pretty kind of close. No,
that's why I respect what you're saying about the Frank Martin thing, because I'm like you know me, I always give the underdog a chance, especially he's got a lot of tools at his disposal. But I don't know, man. It could go either way. Now, I did want to touch on something here because we've been talking since we've been talking about this fight for the last month when it was announced. The question: are you going to buy it? And I got to tell you. Some people are trying to pronounce this card or put it at the same level of the mega Saudi Arabian cards that we've been seeing since last December. I'm telling you, man, I don't see it that way. First of all, Tank Davis and Frank Martin. Frank Martin hasn't fought since June, I believe, June or July of last year. Tank Davis hasn't fought since April of last year because, as we know, he had to do a little time. They gave him a little time, so he had to do that. Then on top of that, you got Terrell Gausha versus Carlos Adames. Neither of those guys have had a fight in the last 12 months, I believe. Let me just double check, and I'll put it up on the screen so people know that I'm not talking out of school. Terrell Gausha last fought on September. All right, not that bad. Carlos Adames last fought in June of last year when he took on Julian Williams. So again, almost like an 11 and a half something year layoff. So again, he's going to be getting the rust off in there. So that's what you're paying for in terms of a pay-per-view. Alberto Puello did have a good fight on December of last year, so he's not his layoff not that long. But then you got Gary Antoine Russell, last fought in August 2023, so still in the summer. So you're going to be paying for guys shaking off the rust in this fight. And then you got the Gvozdyk Benavidez fight we're going to touch on later. But guys, is this really worth the pay-per-view price at some, and people, the comparisons that people are making this with the Saudi Arabian cards? What's that about?
Yeah, I would sooner fucking, I don't know, brush my teeth with steel wool than fucking give $90 to the PBC for that fucking card. I'm done. I'm not getting fucking bent. They can go fuck themselves. I'm not no way paying that. A bunch of fucking ring rust. They should call it just ring rust. That's what they should call their cards from now on. Just ridiculous. Everybody's coming off. Never mind the fact, Aguayo, that dude who's who's like you said, who's fighting Gary Russell Jr. I mean, he hasn't fought in since August last year. It's crazy.
Well,
You know what I
Puello
mean?
fought.
Just trades
Puello fought in.
sloppy fights.
Yeah, Puello fought in December 2023. It's Gary Anton Russell fought in August 2023. So that's almost another over 10-month layoff right there. And I believe he only fought once in 2020. I think that was his only fight of 2023. Let me check. Yeah, that was his only fight of 2023. And
So my thing is too, when it comes to Martin, how many times has he even gone 10 rounds? I think he only went 10 rounds once. Even if he did that, he started fighting in the 10. When they bumped him up to 10 rounds, he was getting all those stoppages. So we're talking about a kid, right? So this will be the first time. This is the first. He's been in 2 other scheduled 12 rounders, although they didn't go the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I don't think he's ever. I might be wrong. But I don't think he's ever gone even 10, never mind 12. And those 2 extra rounds make a big, big difference. And so what happens, you start trying to save your conditioning, but also on top of that, it's the nervousness. You get nervous energy. That sucks the fucking legs out from under you too. So these all things I'd have felt so much better about this fight if Frank Mott was brought along the way, like, say, Zender Zayas was brought along by Top Rank. They brought him along properly.
Well, just to clarify, he has gone 10 and 12 rounds. He went 12 rounds against Rivera. That's the first 12-rounder. And when he stopped Jackson Marinas, he stopped him late in the last round, which was a 10-rounder, so he can maintain his strength all the way up until the end. And in fact, again, to remind people, when he fought Hartunian in his last fight, he dropped him in the last round. So at least he has gone 12 rounds, he has gone the distance, and he can stay strong. But again, the question is, like Jimmy said,
that's a good thing, though. That's definitely a plus in his column then.
But like you said, though, fighting Tank Davis, even though I do think he's overrated, he's still the best guy Martin has fought. So it's imperative that Martin stays calm, doesn't let the moment get to him. I think once he gets there, he's going to say, hey, this guy's not as good as they're telling me, because I think he's in the camp of people that have drank the Flavor Aid. They think that Tank Davis is this pound-for-pound guy that makes it, if he wants to, he can power up and become Roberto Duran. And I'm telling people that's not him. That's not Tank Davis. He hasn't shown it before. He's not going to show it now as he nears 30 years of age. I'm telling people he's not that superstar that people
If he was, he wouldn't have avoided everybody. I mean,
there you go.
That's how Floyd literally kept him under his thumb and actually kept him under control by threatening to make the Lomachenko fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he actually kept him under control. So, you know what I mean? That was up to, and like Martin, himself. Remember when there was a podcast? Come on, man. Tell me how many times you march in there say, I want all those dudes. You know what I mean? I want Lomachenko. I want these. He goes through the list. And Davis goes, I never have. And the guy's face like, oh, all right. So he's never even asked to fight any of these guys. And there's a reason for that. So it's all about what that kid, listen, he doesn't give a fuck about legacy, belts. He's in it for the money. So, yeah, he's not that guy. So hopefully Frank Martin can expose that. The thing is, which really sucks, though, honestly, if Davis was handled properly, if he was with Top Rank, who knows? That could, he had great hand speed, power, all those things we saw him when he was young, through a lot of combinations, had decent footwork, but they started matching him like Wilder, like you brought up Wilder earlier. That's perfect example. And then when they finally step up the competition, they get exposed. And the same thing would happen with Wilder, he had 32 professional fights before becoming world champion. 18 of them were against unranked opponents. The highest ranked opponent he ever fought was a 43rd ranked career cruiserweight, way past his prime. That was his whole resume before becoming champion. And then even after that, all the guys, he didn't even fight his first 5 defenses. None of them were even top 15. So, and then isn't any surprise he got absolutely found out at the end?
I was unsurprised, completely unsurprised. That's why I'm going to be unsurprised when Tank Davis loses, although I will say Tank Davis has better fundamentals than Wilder, so I don't think he's going to be beaten up that like Wilder was, but he will get outpointed. By the way, when I remind people we're gonna be opening up the phone line soon, we're actually a little bit behind schedule here. We got to get to the Davis Benavidez fight, but Recognize just jumped in. He's got a pretty creepy looking Usyk red thumbnail there. I don't know. That's kind of it's kind of menacing. Recognize, are you there?
That's right. That's what I want people to think.
There you go.
I want to trigger some people.
That's how Recognize looks at. That's how Recognize looks at people when they get into his personal space.
That's how I look.
At the bodega.
That's how I look in the mirror every day.
There you go. Well, Recognize, we got to move. We got to go to the Benavidez fight. We're almost done with the Tank Davis thing, but we're taking down predictions for Tank Davis, Frank Martin. What's your official prediction?
I think Tank stops this dude. Look, I think it's gonna be interesting. There's certain things Frank Martin does, and I've watched highlights. I haven't watched this whole fight.
Come on.
That I can see. No, I haven't. I really haven't watched Frank Martin like that.
All right.
The thing is that he does wear down a lot. It seems like he wears down late, and maybe he gets caught because that's what Tank's going to be doing. He's going to be looking for that one shot, and Tank catches him with that one, that little missile right hand that he has. Probably catches him late, drops him. Maybe gets like one of these PBC stoppages or some shit like that, or maybe a legit one. I expect Tank to win. The one thing I will say, Tank does look like he's in better shape of lately. He looked like he's close to weight. Way before the fight happened. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, he's taking training a lot serious. So I think he views Frank Martin as somebody that could give him problems, which speaks to his inactivity and his level of opponents.
Well, there you go.
I think he's been drinking some HGH milkshakes.
Yeah, you posted a picture, by the way, on in the Discord. Let me see if I can prop it up on the screen. But yeah, people like to say that this guy's clean, he doesn't blow up in weight. But here's the thing, man. The guy blows up in weight in between fights. We saw him, the last time we saw him in public, he was being wheeled around outside the Super Bowl because he was so drunk. And then they claimed, he injured both his ankles. I'm thinking, what the hell was he doing? Was he bent over for Diddy and touching them? I don't know. Yeah, it makes no sense. So the fact that he's able to lose so much weight in a short amount of time, come on. Something's eating away all that fat and building muscle. So there's the picture right there. You can see a very...
He's trying to get that HGH head.
Big ass head compared to the rest of his midget body. So
it looks like Joe Rogan's head, bro.
Yeah, he's probably.
Did you see him? Did you see that picture of him? I guess he's been sparring with Boots Ennis. He looks like a midget next to Boots, bro. Like literally, he was up to his. I thought it was fake. That's how small he looked.
It's little people.
There you go.
Sorry, I meant to say dwarf.
Hey, by the way. Okay, let's get down to something interesting here because we can continue on with the David Benavidez thing, but I see we've only got 64 likes. I want to get it up to 80, all right? I want to get it up to 80. Please don't make me pull out some reading material here that I have to read until we get the likes up, all right, fellas? Please don't make me do that. Don't make me be the bad guy. And by the way, for today's reading, we're going to be talking about communication theory, and we're going to be starting off in Chapter 10, Sociological Systems. So please, guys, don't make me do it. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. 15 people hit the like. We're up to 80, all right? 10 people now. 10 people. All right, let's go. All right, so we've got the predictions down here. We will be taking more as the week goes along. Now, of course, the other fight on that card is David Benavidez' first foray. I think it's his first foray up to the light heavyweight division, where he will be taking on the former champ Alexander Gvozdyk. Now, Gvozdyk might be 37 years of age, but he is about as tall, or taller, it seems, than Benavidez. This is an interesting fight. Guys, what can we expect this Saturday between these two fellas?
I can't.
Boy,
go ahead, recognize.
This was a couple of years ago where Gvozdyk didn't retire for like 3 years or whatever it was after the Beterbiev fight. I'll be picking Gvozdyk to beat him. But he's older. I really haven't. This is gonna shock you, BDA, but I haven't seen any of his fights since he's come back. I don't even know who he's fought.
Well, hold on,
So
hold
I
on,
would
hold on.
hold on. Let
Not,
me
not
just say this.
nice.
I would expect I would expect Benavidez to win this fight, but I think Gvozdyk, he's experienced. He's gonna get up for this fight. He will test Benavidez. Benavidez should win this fight. It's the way I see the fight, him going into the Andrade fight. I thought like if he's any type of threat to Canelo or whoever, he should be able to beat a guy like Andre and make a statement. And he did. I'll give him credit for that. So I see it the same way with Gvozdyk, even though I think Gvozdyk has more tools and was always better
Yeah.
than Andre.
Yeah, hold on. Let me talk to the American guys. Let me say, recognize if he looks ordinary at 175 and he wins, he's still good, but he's kind of like floating at the level that he should have been fighting. So if he's ordinary and he wins, he's just an ordinary guy. And if he's ordinary and he loses, he was always the weight bully that it was kind of overhyped. And I'm chopping at the bit to gauge his level. And if he wins by resounding like with flying colors, okay, I'm still on the Benavidez train. But you're gonna lose a little bit something when you keep going up in weight because you keep calling yourself a monster, but you've always been a weight bully. That's what I'm fucking saying.
I don't know. For some reason, for some reason, I picture Gonzalo right now in the back of a grocery store in the Philippines with a red bandana around his head and playing Russian roulette with a bunch of Filipinos. I don't know, man. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Hey, sorry, I recognize you guys. I got the cheap Wi-Fi. No, I fucking whatever, guys. Like,
I think,
you know what I mean? But you know,
I think the Wi-Fi is the
recognize.
least of your problems right now, Gonzalo. But anyway, Sobers, what did you want to say?
I was gonna say I was looking at David's record right now. He's fought above 168 at least 8 or 9 times.
Whoa, really? Okay, so we're talking early in his career, right?
Yeah, well, some of them, yeah, like midway through his career.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? A lot of times, a lot of these fights were like around 170, up to 180 sometimes.
Whoa!
So it's not like it's not outside the regular for him to go up heavy. When he fought Angulo, that was at 170.
Interesting.
We're talking about, but these guys are floating around 200, dude. Tan pesados, with they're heavy guys. 200.
Well, that's what Benavidez said, by the way, in a recent podcast. He's been reiterating what we already knew, what he already said, which was that he does indeed walk around 200-something pounds. Which, again, it's when people say he's not a weight bully, I'm sorry, man. If you're weighing that much on fight night and the other guy weighs 180-something, what would you call that? What would you call that? Fighting at the same weight class? I wouldn't call it that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is this. Yeah,
Even on the interviews, the father don't want to disclose. They kind of keep it silent. They're kosher. Yeah, they'll do the interviews, but they don't really want to mention that they're kind of like a little. Yeah, and sometimes that's good for you, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes you don't want to go overweight. You just want to be where you belong. What I'm saying, Benavidez is fighting a true light heavyweight in Gvozdyk. And I'm saying, but that dude's been out of his element for how many years? 1.5 years? No, but he fought. But it's not the same version of Gvozdyk. What I'm saying, if Benavidez kind of looks ordinary, and he beats Gvozdyk, what do you call it, by a smidgen of a tether of a feather. Oh, well, I'm just saying, dude, there's other better guys that are more sharper than Gvozdyk right now in the moment. If you're calling yourself the monster, like it's a young man's game, and you're young, but you're kind of a weight bully.
Yeah, I mean yeah. Listen, that we can go back and forth about that, whether he's a weight bully or not. But my thing is this: when you see guys fighting him, like some people could look at Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade and think, oh, they've got better footwork than Gvozdyk, because Gvozdyk doesn't dance around the ring as much as they do. But good footwork, in my eyes, means you're economical with your footwork. If you can make a guy miss by moving just a tiny little bit and make him pay, that's much better footwork than running around the ring. I've seen, again, Benavidez, I understand a lot of people.
Well, yeah.
I understand that people move excessively sometimes against Benavidez because he will make you do that. He's a big dude who can crack. But Gvozdyk, he does this. Well, he does these little things there where he turns his opponents. He's got deft footwork where he
Yeah.
circles around them, but doesn't necessarily back up. See, that's what Caleb Plant did a lot. He would back up, touch the ropes, and then he would try to circle. Like, no, that's not as effective as standing your ground, circling around the guy, and then making the miss. But again, at 37, can he still do that? That's going to be the big question. And again, he's fought big punchers before, but he's never fought. I mean, Adonis Stevenson, punch for punch, hits harder than Benavidez, but he wasn't a pressure guy. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen in this one. If Gvozdyk has anything left, I think it gets very dangerous for Benavidez. What do the rest of you guys think? By the way, the phone lines are open in case anybody wants to call in and give us your predictions. Go ahead.
I haven't seen too much of too much. Go ahead, Gonzalo.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Gonzalo, you got to stop interrupting, please, man.
No, yeah, because you remember that delay. Let me say something.
Gonzalo, you gotta stop interrupting, man. I'm sorry, man, but you're interrupting too much today.
Delay. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Silvers.
What do you want to say? I'm sorry. I want to say I'm sorry all the time. I'm sorry.
Hey, you're sorry, bro.
Yeah, I'm a sorry motherfucker. I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's right.
All
right. I'm just playing.
That's enough, Gonzalo.
Go ahead, Gonzalo.
Go ahead, Silvers. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I haven't seen much of Gvozdyk outside of him beating the shit out of Donna Stevenson. So that's why I was gonna say I kind of feel bad that you told Gonzalo to shut up.
Well, I mean, listen, if he can't take criticism and without calling himself a piece of shit, I mean, I don't know what to tell him, man. But that's the thing, though, is Donnie Stevenson didn't throw that many shots. Now, Beterbiev, I guess you could, he's more or less a pressure guy, or at least more so than Stevenson. But Benavidez is the type of guy, he's gonna put up those earmuffs and he's gonna try to walk Gvozdyk down. And if he's just standing straight up in that mummy stance of his, like the mummy, I think Gvozdyk can actually keep him turning. Again, I don't think Gvozdyk needs to, because again, Gvozdyk is not going to run and in a straight line back onto the ropes. I don't think. If Benavidez can get him to do that, credit to him. But again, it's 37 years of age here. Jimmy, what do you think? Gvozdyk, Benavidez?
I was gonna say these Ukrainians are having like say Indian summer, but they're having a really good run this year. And who knows, maybe seeing Usyk and seeing what was the other guy's name, the one who beat Berenchik, the one who beat Navarrete.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll inspire him to step up his game, dude, and really show up.
Well, my thing is this: it's hard when you've been out of the ring. I know he's had some warm-ups, fights, but his last true test. Well, no, he lost to Beterbiev, but that Donna Stevenson fight. I mean, we were going on 8 years ago. And I don't know how long ago the Beterbiev, I think that was in 2020 or 2019. It was a while ago. 2019. Okay. So yeah, we're talking 6 years ago or 5 years ago. So it's a tough ask because Benavidez does keep coming forward and he's going to be a big guy going in there because now he's up to 175, which means he's going to probably step into the ring almost close to heavyweight, if not a heavyweight, 195. Gvozdyk was on the smaller side of light heavyweight. He's like a Bivol. He was on the little tall, but a lanky dude. So if you don't have extremely concussive power to beat Benavidez, you need legs. Because we saw with Plant, right? Plant was beating him in those early rounds. Was clearly getting the better of him boxing, but he ran out of steam. Because it's hard to keep somebody off you for all those rounds. So, I don't know. You know what I mean? The only time Gvozdyk was stopped was against Benavidez. And it wasn't like wasn't a referee stoppage, if I remember correctly. I think he jumped in, right, to save him type of thing. It wasn't like he put him down to a count. So
well, he dropped him for about the second time or third time in the fight, and then the referee waved it off.
Yeah, waved it off. So, yeah, he's shown to have again, that's Benavidez. Beterbiev punches fucking light years harder than Benavidez punches. So he's a tough kid. It's just a big ask for a guy who's 35 years old who's been inactive for half a decade. It's just a big ask. You know what I mean? So I think he's gonna win the early parts of the fight. It could make it interesting. If it goes to the final bell, it could be interesting. It could be interesting. I could see like a split decision win. But again, Benavidez, the house fighter, he's got all the juice behind him. So I don't know. I see Benavidez maybe a split decision win, or he's going to take out his old legs in a stoppage, but accumulation type thing again. And Gvozdyk is a good feather in the cap, but it's still not an elite guy who's fighting today. And again, there's all kinds of guys at 168 he could have fought that he didn't. You know what I mean? The Cuban kid wanted him. Fucking was screaming from the mountaintops for him, but he didn't take that fight. So I don't know. You know, we'll see. Again, it's just hard to when these guys just fight year after year after year and always being a Vegas odds-on favorite to win. You know, just like once in a while being a 50-50 fight. I don't know what the odds are in this fight. I'm sure that Benavidez is the favorite. I don't know by how much. Yeah, but Gvozdyk, if this was Gvozdyk in 2019, all things being equal, and it was him then, I'd pick Gvozdyk to beat him because I think he would have the legs and punching calluses and just, you know, all that stuff matters. So, you know, and he's already tasted defeat. Once you taste defeat, once you lose, you lose. You know you learn to lose. Some people learn to lose. It's just not a good thing for boxers do, you know, to learn to lose. But he did. He lost. So he already knows how to lose. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I'm telling you that
stoppage or a fucking split decision. What's that, PDA?
It's going to be interesting to see how he handles Benavidez' power because at 168, yeah, Benavidez can crack, even though he's more of an accumulative damage type of guy. He can crack. If all of a sudden that power changes by an amount, even if it's a finite amount, but nevertheless, it's the type of power that Gvozdyk can say, hey, I can take this. It's going to be very interesting, man, because Ronald Ellis is a guy early on was able to get into a jabbing contest with Benavidez. He was tagging him with that jab. Gvozdyk has a good jab. Like I said, he's got an underrated right hand too. When he wants to see, because if you watch most of his clips, he's punching light to be able to get out of the way, keep his guy turning at the same time. But when he plants his feet, he can crack with that right hand. And then on top of that, like I said, that footwork of his, again, watch the Killer Plant fight. These guys move way too much against Benavidez when they don't really have to. And these guys are good movers. But Gvozdyk, I believe, is a patient mover. He's a more educated mover. He moves just enough to make you miss, but not enough so that he's wasting too much energy. So if he can still pull that off at 37 years old and take Benavidez' power, and again, I know that it's a lot of what-ifs, but it could still be an interesting fight. Now, the thing is, we don't know. Will Benavidez win or lose? Will he stay at 175, you guys think, or you think he boils himself back down to 168? By the way, the fellas, the phone lines are open. In case you want to call in, give us your thoughts on the what we're talking about here, anything that you want to talk about in regards to boxing.
And he will go back down to 168 to fight Canelo just because of the money. The money alone will make him go back down to 168 because we're talking about, I mean, put it this way, he would have to fight 5, 6, 7 times at 175 to make what he would make for one fight at 168. But it just doesn't usually work out for guys to go up in weight, come back down. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But I believe 100% he'd go back to 168 to fight Canelo. But now, the thing is, too, though, BDA, right? How tall is Benavidez? Was he 6'1"?
He's listed as 6'1". Gvozdyk is 6'2".
6'2", yeah. Benavidez is a tall, thin kid. So, yeah. Listen, if he's got the stamina at 67, it depends on... Look, it comes down to this. I don't know how this kid lives, you know, because he's Ukrainian. I don't know where he lives. Is he a drinker? How did he live in those 5 years out of the ring? Was he banging back fucking daggers and drinking fucking his brains out every night or partying? Yeah, I think he's going to get washed. But if he was still an athlete, running, jogging, staying in shape, that can help. But 37, I mean, it's a big ask for the kid, but it's still going to be his... He had the skills. No, I would definitely. If this was 2019 Gvozdyk, I'd pick him for sure, just for the stick, just for his jab, like you said. he could frustrate him. And so yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm interested in this fight just to see on how he handles things.
I tell you, Benavidez better take this guy out, man, because the Canelo fans are gonna dismantle him if he fell. Because I know what the Canelo fans are gonna say. Canelo fans are gonna say, "Whoa, Canelo went up and he beat Kovalev. This guy fights an older guy in Gvozdyk, and he can take him out." So Benavidez is in a bit of a lose-lose situation in this one. I don't think he's in a lose situation, but I know that's the way some people are going to paint it. So he better mind his P's and Q's in there and actually go. Because remember, one of the last times we saw Benavidez in public before he went into this podcast tour that he's doing to try to promote his fight this Saturday, he was seen over at the DAZN telecast drunk out of his mind. Well, not drunk out of his mind, but, he was slurring it up.
He was definitely shit-faced.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
he was definitely hammered.
He
apologized for it.
Oh, did
which
he?
I thought was pretty good on his part. Yeah, no, he apologized for it.
Huh. Interesting.
He said he was sorry that he shouldn't have been, yeah. So you realize it's not a good look for a professional fighter. Well, he's still fighting to be drunk in public. Alcohol destroys the human body like no other drug. So if this is a regular thing for him, it's not good. We saw what it did to Spence.
Yeah, I remember some people were defending him saying, well, so what? I mean, he stops drinking when he trains. And I'm thinking, that's not the point. The point is he shouldn't be drinking at all. I mean, okay, maybe a drink or two, but to the point where you're slurring your words, maybe he's got low alcohol tolerance. Maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's why. But still, I mean, listen, just people need a refresher of how he sounded. Let me play you that clip here. Where is it? Hold on a second. It's loading up here. Hold on. Obviously, that's not it. Sorry. That's the Garrett, whatever his name, the guy from
Sounds exactly like him.
That's not him.
Sounds exactly like him.
That's not him. Here is.
Sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Here's Benavidez at the when they were interviewing him.
I am here with David Benavidez. David, nip and tuck fight so far between Diego Pacheco and Sean McCallum. What are you seeing?
And Diego doing what he got to do. He's using his job. He's keeping his distance. He's looking great right now.
What more do you want to see from him in the second half of the fight?
I want to see him use his distance more and his power. He's looking like using.
I don't know the music there in the background. I don't hope he doesn't get his flag, but yeah, I mean, the power, good. I'm coming.
If you ask me, he sounds better when he's drunk.
Ah, come on, come on, recognize right off the bat.
He didn't get his gaggers dropped off yet. I'm pissed off. I'm waiting for my dealer. No, he just didn't get to rail back a couple of lines and straighten them up.
Come on. I don't think that's the answer, Jimmy.
Those lines, man. That's what.
Well, I mean, Jimmy's not saying it's
actually
the best.
Less harmful to the body than fucking alcohol is.
Well,
that's the truth.
There you go. I mean,
it's
Jimmy's
illegal,
not saying
but it's still does less damage to the human body.
Yeah, Jimmy's not saying that's the best answer. He's just giving an answer. That's all. But that's the other question. I mean, this is a guy who admittedly blows up to over 200 pounds. We see him shit-faced on camera. He's failed to make weight before twice. I'm telling you, it's not it's if you're putting stock on Benavidez, if you're buying stock, this has to make you pull back a little bit and say, am I making the right choice here? And I like David Benavidez. I like watching him fight. I think we need more guys like Benavidez when it comes to his type of style, all action style, and with defense and combination punching. But I think he's very good to the point where he thinks he can get away with this type of stuff, and maybe he'll get away with it this Saturday. But once he nears his 30s, it's gonna catch up to him. Like I was telling people, the floors are open. Sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Usyk needs to do levels, man. I'm telling you. I mean, Gvozdyk, he needs to take a page from fucking Usyk's playbook to the levels, fucking. Stomach, chest, face. Change the levels. Keep them guessing. Don't stand tall. Just throwing at the head. Bend down. You know what I mean? Snap at the stomach and then turn and just, you know what I mean? But not wasted movement. No movement for the sake of movement. Now that's where he's been in the world class in the images. He's been fighting at the world level at the elite level for a long time. So he knows that. I would imagine, you know what I mean? He knows not to use wasted movement. And there's nothing worse than seeing a guy moving all over the place, using movement for the sake of movement. So if he uses his movement right and he sticks them, because and again, Benavidez, his biggest problem, his biggest, I'd say, thing is his footwork. He crosses his feet a lot. And he squares up a lot, and that can, become a guy like Gvozdyk could take advantage of that. So let's see if Benavidez has been working on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be if he's been working on that and he can pull that off, I'd be very interested in that. By the way, shout out to JXV88 for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "What is David Benavidez gonna do to Gvozdyk? He's not Beterbiev." I mean, I agree with that, JXV. By the way, thank you for your contribution. I agree that he's not Beterbiev, but this isn't the same Gvozdyk from 2019 either. So there is that big X factor. But like I said, if Gvozdyk can take the punches, all of a sudden those shots aren't as powerful as they were 168, maybe he can make something happen. Maybe.
That's the only reason why I would take Benavidez, because I think he's he should be on the up and up in terms of his career and his age, where Gvozdyk's on the, obviously decline. Even though, he's still been fighting. He took a layoff. Remember that fight against Beterbiev took a lot out of him. I think it was the combination of what he did to the fight that he had with Stevenson, and then Beterbiev. I think that if I'm not mistaken, they were back to back, and so he took that time off, and obviously he's older. He's somewhere like 35 plus years of age. So with that long layoff, I don't expect him to be the same fighter. But we could be in for a surprise, man. Remember that, like you guys were saying it, BDA. This guy had a long and very prosperous amateur career, and a lot of people, a lot of new age boxing fans don't realize that this guy Gvozdyk was like a blue chip type of fighter. You know what I'm saying, coming out of the amateurs. And so maybe he turned back the clock. Maybe he gets up for this fight because it's Benavidez. And maybe
these Ukrainian guys.
Maybe this will be a mistake.
And remember, he beat Stevenson too. Sorry, Sobergo.
I was gonna say these Ukrainian guys they always come in discipline, bro. You know what I mean? So I don't think they come in bullshitting, come looking for a check. Even Deryevchenko, that guy's 37, 38, and he got a lot of fight in him still. I mean, fucking Munguia found that out, right?
Remember, Benavidez, when it came to the Beterbiev fight too, that was almost unfair. They've known each other since they were kids, since they were in the early teens, but he was the younger kid. Like Benavidez, like Beterbiev said, he was the younger guy, and we used to he was the youngest one on the Russian squad, and they kind of like picked on him and stuff, and you know what I'm saying, like the older guy syndrome, like he kind of always looked up to him and stuff, but he always like pushed him around in the ring and stuff because he was always older and stronger. So that has a mental thing too. And Beterbiev took it to his advantage because we've seen him. I mean, he fought against Adonis Stevenson, and yes, Adonis Stevenson was a piece of shit, fucking woman trafficker and shit, human trafficker. But that doesn't take away from that kid's left hand. He had dynamite. Yeah. He could punch, and Gvozdyk went in there and beat him. I mean, almost killed him. So,
yeah, but all the prostitutes in Montreal rejoiced that day.
I mean, listen, prostitutes have weird mentalities, man. They have Stockholm syndrome. They were probably weeping when he got locked up.
They started crying.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys are making excellent points about Benavidez Gvozdyk, and again, it's a big selling point to this card in terms of the what if, but it's not an effective selling point. I mean, do I really want to pay, especially with the mega cards that we had from the Saudis? They were about $50-$60. This one's it figures to be about 100. And by the way, Tank Davis fans love to talk about how Tank Davis is the face of boxing. I haven't seen a lot of hype for this fight, first of all. Also, they were mocking Canelo and Munguia because I think Munguia was a 5 or 7-1 underdog. And I'm looking at the odds here. That's what it turns out that Frank Martin is against Tank Davis. He's about a 6-1 underdog. So I mean, yeah, you're really expecting me to? I mean, I regardless of the odds, I still think Frank Martin. He's got good speed and all that. But do I really want to shell out $100 for this pay-per-view after all the pay-per-views we had? Usyk, that was Fury, that was pay-per-view. The mega card in Saudi Arabia, Joshua Ngannou, that was another pay-per-view. Canelo, Munguia, that was another pay-per-view. Do I really want to buy this one? Is the big question.
Wilder, Parker, that was a pay-per-view, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I said. That was a part of the Saudi mega card.
Yeah. And he was an 8-1 favorite too, by the way, which is, I just found that out today. I can't believe he was that high. Yeah, Wilder was an 8-1 favorite to win that. Nobody on this panel even had it. Nobody even picked Wilder to win.
Yeah, bro. You start gambling, dude.
Well, I mean, if you listen to a lot of the people here on this podcast, not to toot our own horns, but we're usually on the right track. I mean, I'm just saying. By the way, I want to remind people that the phone lines are open, so if you want to call in, and don't forget, I will be doing a deep dive watch along deep dive watch along podcast over at Rumble, Second Renaissance. I just watch a bunch of videos. You can watch along, and we focus on a whole bunch of things, whether it's
what are you gonna do that video?
True crime, mysteries and all that. That's what we're going to be focusing on over there. So make sure to check out on the Rumble. In fact, I'm going to put the link in the chat because I didn't do that earlier. Shout out to JVX. Excuse me, I keep butchering the name. JXV88. Shout out to JXV88 for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, Stream East will be useful on June the 15th. Oh, come on. I don't know what Stream East is. I don't want to know. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's some sort of a radio station or something of that ilk. I don't know.
It's a boxing radio station, BDA.
Well, there you go. I figured. I wanted to talk about some of the stuff. We didn't have a chance to talk about some of the stuff that happened these last couple of days in boxing. We had Xander Zayas fight last Saturday, and it was part of the Puerto Rican weekend parade, whatever they call it. And Xander Zayas, I mean, I read Steve Kim's latest column, and he makes a good point. He goes, Miguel Cotto and Felix Trinidad were punchers. They were entertaining fighters. Xander Zayas, he's got this decent hand speed technique, good power, but he's nowhere near as entertaining so far as Trinidad or even Cotto, who wasn't as entertaining in my eyes as Trinidad. What do you guys think the future holds for Zayas, and what did you think about his performance against Teixeira?
His lack of power is going to hold him back.
Yeah, because I mean, look, if you want to sell a guy as the next national hero, he has to be entertaining, and you can be entertaining even if you don't have one punch knockout power or glorious hand speed that dazzles and dazzles a crowd. But Zaya seems to be more of a technician, and if you want to build, a star around technique, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some massaging, and it's going to take some good opponents to really rally the troops, meaning the Puerto Rican public, to say, hey, I want to pay to see this guy fight. And he doesn't really show that. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know how far he's going to go, but just based off the entertaining factor, or the wow factor that people need to become national stars, I don't see it from Zayas, but I mean, he won virtually every round against Teixeira, though. So I give him, credit for that. The other guy who fought on that card was Shushu Carrington, who ended up stopping a late replacement. I wasn't as impressed. Like, people were talking about Inoue, by the way, him fighting Inoue, and I'm thinking, is this guy that much better than Stephen Fulton? That people think he can beat Inoue? I don't know, man. I think people were jumping to conclusions there a little bit with the Shushu Carrington thing. What did you guys make of it?
Yeah, well, yeah. That same kid who was at Southpaw TV, that knucklehead who put out, remember, he's a clown. He writes all hype jobs, and and then he's watching doing it live, and a minute anyway stops him. He said, "Oh, it seems he's get up, fight back." And he says, "Well, I question the man's gloves. His punches were doing too much damage." But yeah, he put out a whole video. Somebody sent me a link. And I couldn't believe it. Oh yeah, you see Inoue run from the arena after the Shushu win. Listen, Shushu's a talented kid.
That's a good impersonation that you're doing of the guy. That's a good impersonation. And I don't want to blow up the guy's spot too much, but there's leaked tweets from the guy that he admits that he's just trolling for the views. That's why he gets a lot of views. Yeah, but he's entertaining, man. That's why I think I understand why people watch him.
Well, somebody sent me something today, man. Not very entertaining. He was on with Fred Hawthorne, what a barbershop conversations. Dude was literally, "I'll effing kill your daughter." His daughter's 3 years old, mind you. And then he went into grave detail how he would punch, call her an SLUT, and I would hold it, and I'd punch her, face all bloody, saying that to him. And then he went on and made a whole video about what he would do to his 3-year-old daughter. It was
Yeah, that was
insane.
discussed.
I got it out.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah,
That
you
happened
saw
a while
that?
back. That happened a while
Unbelievable.
back, and I haven't seen him do that. But what I'm saying is, aside from that, I understand
Oh,
why
so
people find
he's
it.
entertaining. He's funny as fuck. I mean, if he was serious, it's funny on the goof end of it. Yeah, because in him, no, because he's a clown, and I stand on that. That's like, well, he's Colombian, I think, of Colombian descent. But no, he's a knucklehead. But no, he was dead serious about the NUA shit. And he's dead serious about and then
Ecuadorian.
NUA Ecuadorian, okay. And then he ran from the arena.
Yeah, I don't
He
think he's
ran from
serious,
the
Jimmy.
arena 'cause
Again, I
he's
don't think he's serious. I don't think he's serious. If you read those leaked tweets,
Canelo Alvarez is on steroids.
if
You
you
talking
read
about that
those
guy?
leaked, if you read those leaked tweets, I mean, you come to the conclusion that he's a certain. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's okay what he's doing, threatening people and all that for the views, but I think there's a certain degree of comedic aspect to what he's doing.
Naoya Inoue is a coward.
Yeah, yeah, that's him. Yeah. He is a straight hype job. And he's
Canelo
going to see what a black
Alvarez is
American
on
boxers can do to
steroids.
a Japanese hype job.
But I tell you what I
Because he
like about
lost to
Shushu
Triple
Carrington.
G,
I
who
tell
was
you what I
50
like
years
about
old.
I tell you what I like about Shushu Carrington. I like the shoulder roll. See, too many fighters try to get into the shoulder roll thing and it just crumbles. They get hit flush with right hands. This guy's actually got it down down to a pat, pretty much. It's pretty good, the shoulder roll. I think that's gonna get him killing his Inoue. But still, I mean, it's. And by the way, by the time Inoue moves up to 126, this guy might be on his way to 130. I mean, he's not a little featherweight in there. So I don't know why people were talking about that fight. Just because
Now,
Inoue
is he fighting at 126? Shushu?
yes.
Is that what he fights at? Yeah. So yeah, listen, and that's another thing too. Inoue has said it, and he said it again this past weekend. That he has no intentions of moving up to 126 anytime soon. He's going to keep his reign at 122 for a while. And from what I can see through the translator, Google Translate, his father doesn't want him to go to 126 at all. He thinks he's maxed out at 122. But I know that he wants to test himself to go up to 126. But I know a lot of Tank fans want him to go up to 135 to fight Tank. Tank can't go up to 140, but they expect him to go up 7 divisions. So hilarious. But
I don't know what that's about.
we'll see. There's some fights at 122 though. Inoue can make.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
Pretty
listen,
good.
I'd still like to see him fight Casimero. I know that he probably takes out Casimero, but it's still it's an interesting fight that's been fermenting for a while that hasn't occurred. There's a rumor,
MJ?
by the way, Vince Vegas. Shout out to Vince Vegas for his contribution with the super chat. He didn't really leave a message other than I think it's a fox that he left. But shout out to Vince Vegas for his contribution. Hold on a second. What's going on here? Yeah, so shout out to Vince Vegas. Yeah, there's some rumor going around now that the Saudis are going to be setting up that card in England, and they're saying it might be Anthony Joshua versus Dubois. What's his name? Shamza, or what's his name? Shiraz, taking on Chris Eubank Jr. And they were also talking about Inoue versus MJ on that undercard as well. So hey, if they can pull that off, I'm not too hot on the main event. I think AJ is gonna knock out Dubois, but Dubois is still heavy-handed. You never know; it could turn into a firefight. So, man, if they can get Inoue on that card in England, in front of a giant stadium against MJ, again, I think he beats MJ, but you never know. Akhmadaliev has a different type of style from the Palace, for example, who's they're just different styles. So we'll see what happens. I think MJ is a little bit better defensively.
There's a tall Japanese kid at 118. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He wants to fight Inoue's brother. He's heavy-handed and he's tall.
Junso Nakatani.
And, there you go, Nakatani. Yeah, so he's going to go up to 122 sooner than later. So that's another fight. There's some fights to be made there. It's just crazy. This kid just goes to a division, instantly goes right to the best fighters, right to the best guy, which was Fulton, takes him out. And it's like, and then he's just going to go down the thing. Yeah, it's impressive, but I'm curious to see who he fights next. It's always a must-see TV when he does fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else was happened this Saturday? The Broner Cobbs thing. I mean, listen, with this, Blair Cobbs beat Broner, and Broner was still landing hands on him. But I do think Cobbs now with that win has positioned himself in the driver's seat of the 147-pound divisions. All roads lead to Blair Cobbs. If anybody wants to make a big payday, they got to go see him, and they got to acquiesce to whatever demands he makes. Because that win, I mean, think about it. He beat a 3-division world champion in Adrian Broner. Has Boots Davis done? Well, there you go. Has Boots done that? Boots Jerron Ellis.
No,
Jennings, excuse me, Jerron Ellis. What am I talking about?
The tooth. Yeah, Blair the Tooth Fairy Cobbs, man.
Come
That's
on,
what I'm calling him from now on.
Come
punching
on.
people's teeth down their throat.
I only saw the highlights because again, I wasn't gonna pay for that, but I mean, people were saying that the production of it was horrible. The mics were out of whack. The sound, sometimes the sound would fluctuate on and off. The sound of the crowd was too loud, even though there wasn't anybody there. Broner took his sweet ass time to get into the ring. It was all over the place. Don King has really. If you would have told me in the 90s that this is where he was going to end up, I would have been very surprised. But I did also. He stepped back because, about 15 years ago, I think, because he was taking care of his alien wife. So I think that's what allowed people to come in and take away his power. But he still has to have plenty of money, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I would imagine. He's never paid any big fines. He made millions and millions of dollars, never mind what he stole.
So how come the production for his
like Mike Tyson?
So how come he doesn't put more money into the productions?
He's just cheap. You know what I mean? His son's still involved in everything. No, it really is. He's cheap. They were throwing jabs like Clarissa Shields, Linda Martin, Chrissy Martin. She was on there because Clarissa Shields said negative things about her and stuff, never giving her props. And say what you want about. I know we don't do women's boxing on this channel, but Chrissy Martin, these women today, any kind of, what they got is because of Chrissy Martin. Remember, she was the undercard on the Tyson Fury Mike Tyson pay-per-view. That's how popular she got back in the day. Yeah. And come to find out, man, their toughest opponent was her husband, who beat the absolute dog shit out of him. In fact, shot her 3 times at point blank range with a 9mm, and she got up and walked away. Talk about a tough bitch.
Or talk about a bad shooter in that guy. I mean, anyway, the point is that...
They just didn't hit anything vital. They just went, I guess, in and out. They went right through her.
I remember when she was fighting on HBO and George Foreman goes, she has to fight like the raging bull. The raging cow. And he didn't even realize what he was saying. I mean, he just thought, hey, well, I'm going to call her a cow because it's the opposite of a bull. But he didn't realize how bad that sounded. Yep. And by the way, didn't she become a lesbian?
Yes, she did. Yeah, I guess being shot by a guy kind of turned her off for the final thing. So yeah, now she's a woman in comfortable shoes now.
There you go. Yeah, she got shot. Now she's shooting into women with some.
And she married. Actually, she married a woman.
Well, there you go. Good for her. Hopefully, she's. Unknown says she eats tuna now. Yeah, there you go. That's what she said. The tuna buffet. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, so. Xander Zayas, I liked watching the guy, but he's not anything. He might be, because look, with Andre Ward, he was a technician, and you look at how much it took for them to build him up as a staple of a network. And then when he retired, people forgot about him because there just wasn't anything that much memorable. The most memorable things about him were how much he broke the rules. That's really it. So in this business, I'm sorry, it's show business. You need exceptional power or hand speed. Those are the 2 main things that wow and dazzle people. And then, of course, you can be entertaining if you're a go-getter type of fighter. Because Canelo, he's not exactly knocking people out, and he wasn't exactly knocking people out with one punch either when he was coming up. But something about him captured the imagination of the public. So maybe Zayas can do that, but it seems doubtful.
He's too predictable on his punching selections, man.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I will give him I'll cut him some slack. Teixeira looked like he was just there to survive, maybe. I don't think he was really there to win. And it's kind of hard to knock dudes like that out. But, if that was Miguel Cotto, Trinidad fighting a guy similar to Shera who's just there to survive, you just get the feeling they would have knocked that guy out. You know,
No,
and
I agree.
him coming from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's not like Mexico. Mexico's what 100 million people. Puerto Rico's about 4 million, 5 million maybe. Um, so you got to be fully like in order to capture the imagination of not only Puerto Rican fans but boxing fans in general. You got to have those kind of skill sets. You got to be Wilfredo Gomez. I'm not saying you got to be that good, but if you're gonna be a superstar, yes, you got to be in that range. And I don't think he has that yet. I'm not saying he will never have that, but I got my questions about him. He 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 looks polished in terms of like boxing fundamentals, but there's IQ, there's ring IQ, and there's maybe bad punching technique, bad punching selection. It's a combination of those things, and maybe those because he's 21. Maybe there's a window where he can fix that.
Right. I mean, Esteban de Jesus wasn't a big puncher. He could crack, but he was mostly a boxer puncher, and he was well loved in Puerto Rico. So maybe Zayas can get.
Esteban, remember, you're right, but Esteban was a fighter. You know what I'm saying? He was, and I'm not saying Zayas is not. He hasn't been tested yet, maybe, but yeah, you're right. Esteban.
I know I'm right.
I know you're right. I know that you know you're right. I'm just saying that. Yeah, I think Esteban de Jesus was more of a fighter. He's more entertaining. You know.
Well, it's again.
Yeah, and it's weird. He won every single round. Nobody's outlanded him, and he won every round. But still, I understand what you guys are saying because I was the same way. When I watched the whole fight. I'm like, I was really hoping. I'm like, he's got to stop Teixeira. He's only been stopped once at a TKO in his whole career, so he's a durable kid. But he's also an old man now compared to you. And the thing, waiting for his man strength. Now he's 21 years old now, right? Zayas,
I believe
he's 21, if I'm not mistaken. Okay,
21.
you got your man. Yeah, you got your man strength now. Not fully developed. Your muscular skeletal wise, that doesn't happen until the mid-30s. But you're a man now. I would have liked to seen a stoppage, and I think he could have got it. The problem is, it's almost the Bival syndrome. You're up on the cards. You're winning every round. So I'm not going to take the chance, you know what I mean, to get stopped or something like. But I just don't get it because you're not doing yourself any favors. Because just think about in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, Xander Zayas was everything to Top Rank. You could see the way they were promoting him, the things were being said about him. In the last crop, over the last few years, have kind of surpassed him. These guys are kind of jumping ahead of him because they matched him. They were bringing him along slowly, which I could see because of his age, right? You contribute, okay, he's 18, 19. Okay, you're 21 years old. It was last night against Teixeira or Saturday was a big thing. I was like, you got to stop him. It's just not a good look that you didn't, or that you saw in the 12th round or in the 10th round, you turned it up, and he definitely had Teixeira a little goofy for a second. Where was that in the 8th round, man? You should have been trying harder to take him out of there, especially Puerto Ricans, man. You want to get the fucking Puerto Rican fan base in New York to like you? You better fucking go to war. They don't care if you knock somebody out, but you better not leave anything in the ring.
Jimmy, you nailed it. You see that, what you just said? Where was that in the 8th or the 9th round? Remember you said that, right?
Yep.
That's where the ring IQ comes in because he doesn't understand, bro. As the fight goes later, you're gonna be more tired. Your power, your snap's not gonna be as much there. You should be doing that. In other words, what you were saying is you should have been doing that a little earlier.
Yep. I was disappointed by that.
But he's got good skills. I'm not gonna take that away from him. He's a combination puncher. You know, he could change levels. He can go to the body, go upstairs. I just think that he has a poor way of doing it. His punching selection, when to do it, he's kind of too predictable. But again, remember, Teixeira was there to survive. That's basically his job. He wasn't there to win, exchange where, maybe had he done that, maybe a guy like Zayas probably could have got him out of there, or at least dropped him.
Yeah, you know, at 154 at this point, it might even be too soon to be putting Zayas in there against a guy like Michel Soro or Kubranov. I think those guys might be too good right now for him. So, yeah, put him back in there against tough guys, but, you know, guys that he has to work his offense on. Really put the earmuffs on, maybe be a little bit more aggressive. But, hey, listen, time's on his side. So we shall see what happens there.
I would I'd take the other side of that coin. I'd say put him in there tough, start matching him tough. You've been paying this kid, Top Ranks invested in this kid for half a decade already. Like, put him in there. Get this fuck kid in there because again, he could be one of those dudes who he needs to fight better guys. Sometimes, like Mikel Cotto, for instance, always did better against the better people. You know what I'm saying? He's, you know, they just bring it out of you. Get him in there against some guys you can hit. And, you know, maybe he'll rise to the top. If not, then you know what you got. Like, I personally wouldn't string him along for another couple of years, matching him, you know, soft or whatnot. I'm not saying they matched him soft. Teixeira is an ex-champion. It was a good feather in his cap. But you don't want to fall into that fucking Bivol thing because that's the problem with Bivol. I mean, he might be one of the most skilled fighters today. He's only lost a handful of rounds in his entire career. But my God,
Miguel
he can be boring.
Miguel Cotto and especially Tito Trinidad, those guys were assassins, bro. That's what they were. They were assassins. They come in there to stop you. That was the game. To beat you up to the point that they knock you out or they stop you, they make you quit. That was their game plan. And does that kid have that in him? I don't know yet. You know, I'm not too sure about that.
By the way, Felix Tito Trinidad was. If anybody wants to get an inside look on Tito Trinidad, in that video I did, Boxing's Most Shocking Moments of All Time, Volume 1, there's a little feature on Felix Trinidad there. People forget, man, like somebody mentioned in the chat, the guy was 20 when he won his first title. So that guy was special. I mean, he's probably the best Puerto Rican fighter of all time. Either him or Wilfredo Gomez.
Yep, I agree with that. I'll probably go Gomez, but you can make an argument Trinidad.
By the way, we're probably going to have to... Yeah, we're going to have to...
Believe it or not, I think, honestly, the best Puerto Rican fighter...
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Sorry, go finish BDA. I'll say it after.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the best Puerto Rican fighter. I personally think, some people would say you're crazy, but it's Hector Camacho. And the reason being, he did what he did. Like literally going out and doing cocaine and drinking the night before big fights. Imagine if he was seriously... Like, literally, before the biggest fight of his career on HBO that he stopped the guy, I think, in the 4th round, his fucking manager found him at 4 o'clock in the morning, wasted out of his fucking mind. Wasted.
I witnessed that. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I mean, it was against Sugar Ray Leonard, who's been retired for like 5 years or some shit like that. But you're right. I saw him in Harlem, skied out. Right?
So imagine what he could have done. Imagine, and he was still that fast and talented, like all over talent. Like if you take that and you led a clean lifestyle, Hector Camacho could have been one of the greatest of all time if he lived a clean life because he was that good being that fucked up. And like he said, his entire career he was messed up. There was no period in his career that he wasn't getting fucked. He didn't party like a maniac. He was addicted to the women, addicted to the drugs or the alcohol. He just lived hard, fucking, you know, lived life like he stole it, you know. Fucking.
At least he had fun before he passed away. That's one way to do it. Now, fellas, I gotta go. I'm gonna go host a second Renaissance episode, a deep dive watch along, where we just watch a bunch of videos. Yeah. So that's what it's gonna be. So we gotta go. But shout out to everybody who joined us here. I'm talking about Never Sobers. Recognize. Jimmy Gonzalo was here earlier as well, briefly. Shout out to everybody who donated the super chat. Everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Super Sardonic. Who else we got? Darky Doe, Reyes, Guerrero de la Info, Josh San Miguel, 1 foot out the door. Shout out to him. Alfredo Contreras, Slide Encounter, Warp Speed Unknown, LL, that's double L. Shout out to all of those guys. If I forgot anybody, it's because we gotta go. But shout out to you guys.
I'm really happy.
What the fuck? Oh, it's the Benavidez video.
Right now.
What do you do against a guy that's got a long jab but is sticking it in your face all night?
Gotta keep doing that all night and looking for that right hand.
Thanks, David.
All right, there you go. That's how. If you're gonna watch the Second Renaissance and watch all videos along with me, you bring your favorite beverage. That's what I say. All right. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for joining us. Check out the Second Renaissance on Rumble. I'm gonna put the link in the description again. I mean, in the chat. Make sure to scamper over there. We'll be broadcasting deep into the night. So shout out to you fellas. Thank you for joining us.